Welcome everybody to the 9th Annual Outstanding Presentations Workshop. I'm really excited. We have a great selection of speakers and Boris is one of them. He's our first speaker. And I'm really excited because I met him for the first time. We're both PowerPoint MVPs and this is your second year, Boris?
No, it is not my second, it's my first one.
Okay.
I didn't get the MVP award 2 years ago, but then later on, last year, they gave up and gave it to me.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I met you at the last MVP Summit. Microsoft every year has this summit, which like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people come to. They have MVPs and all these different products that they have. So that's where I met you. So I'm going to just introduce a little bit about you, and then we'll get started. So
Absolutely.
I'm reading here from my other monitor, if I look like I'm looking to the side a little bit. So Boris is the founder of the presentation agency 356 Labs. So why is it called 356 Labs?
The story is long, but to give you the short version of it, when I tried to register a name, I didn't find one. Every one of the names every name that I was thinking about, like each one of them was booked. So before I gave up, I actually asked myself to which one, what is a name that is very close to me. So 356 comes from the fact that I'm a Porsche fan since I was a small child. Porsche, the brand, the car itself, the first model of Porsche is 356. It's iconic in terms of design and simplicity, something that our company recognizes itself for. And then Labs is coming from the fact that we are an agency that constantly experiments, so we are constantly pushing the limits of presentations, as you're about to see right now. 356labs.com, available. Here we go.
Okay, excellent. So that's really nice because it stands for design, simplicity, and pushing the boundaries. Excellent. A top rater, a PowerPoint MVP, a top rated international speakers delivered presentations in more than 25 countries. Boris and his company, the only presentation agency in the world to get invited to speak for 2 consecutive years at the biggest yearly Microsoft conference with more than 25,000 attendees, Microsoft Ignite. 356 Labs is the company behind presentations that closed multi-million-dollar deals, got startup investment from people like Bill Clinton, and critical moments like a recent IPO of Gratis, which became the second biggest IPO in the history of Bulgaria. Boris is also consulting and training companies like KPMG, Publicis,
yeah.
Publicis, okay. Roche.
Publicis, yeah.
Roche, Unicredit, Bullbank, Renault, and many more in topics ranging from presentation skills and storytelling to the psychology behind slide design. So I'm really excited about his topic. He calls it conversational presentations. I think we're more, at least in the United States, we're more used to the term interactive presentations, but it's the same kind of thing where you have a conversation with your audience. And so he's going to talk about what it is and why you would use it, and he's going to go get into normal view and just show you how to do it after showing you some examples. So let's take it away, Boris. Go ahead and share your screen and we will start.
Okay, here we go. So let me share my screen. So just confirm to me when you see my screen.
We see the screen, but not the presentation.
No, I'm opening the presentation immediately. Before I open it, I have a few words to say though. So again, hello everybody. We're getting directly into what brought you in this webinar. I won't say anything else for me or the company. If you have any questions, please let me know in in other way, like emails. Ellen will give you my contact. So that's not why we're here. Now, to give you a context, what are we going to do in the next 45-50 minutes? There are no slides, there is no theory, it's just practice, it's just demo only. Now, what I want to show you and where I want to start from is the typical presentation, right? Everything that I'm going to be showing to you today is obviously a customer case. These are real presentations. This is not something that's just set up for today. These are real world cases for companies ranging, as you are about to see, for companies like Deutsche Telekom and others, as you'll see later on. So in the typical presentation scenario, what are we seeing more or less? what we're seeing is we have a speaker, and they prepare the presentation that goes in a linear way. What I mean is the presenter starts and goes from slide 1 to slide 40, right? Goes through each one of those slides in a linear fashion, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or that's a problem. However, it turns out that you can do better in some specific situations. Now, this is the typical presentation. Like, these are slides that are, again, linear, created with PowerPoint, on and on, like this one. Then you have the morph effect, on and on and on, which is great again. However, I would be quite curious, and it will be really interesting for me to see from you guys, is there someone in the chat that needs to present in front of people who are on the senior rows, who are, let's say, managers, directors, C-level executives, and who are, so when you go and present in front of a group like this, the group is not more than 6, 7, 8, up to 10 people in the room. So can you please put in the chat quite quickly if you have this case already, or if you think you are going to have this case very, very soon? Because I'll be quite curious. Aaron, please monitor this one, because I'll be curious to hear that.
So we have 3 people already saying yes. So the idea he's asking is, do you ever present to a few people, maybe senior people? 4 people saying yes. Anita says, yes, I have, and have many more situations. Hi, Anita. Yeah, Donna says, sure. So absolutely.
Okay, so brilliant. So let me show you another version of the presentation. So this is actually, what you are about to see here is the real presentation that we created for Deutsche Telekom. Now, let me show you what this is, and then we are going to see how it was built. Not slide by slide, but the most important moments, I will show them to you, and you'll see quite interesting things, I would say. So this is a slide, right? This is normal slide, but is it really? Because if I go to slideshow mode, you will see that all of those, as you can see from the pointer, are actually not just slides. These 5 are actually links to something. And take a look at what the effect is. So just quickly. And then I can go back. Right? So this is a dashboard. And the reason why I want to create a presentation like this is pure psychology. Let me give you the context. So if you are presenting in front of a small group, again, this approach won't work that well when you have hundreds of people in the room. It just won't work that well. If you have small group of people, they're important people, they're kind of decision makers. You probably noticed that those people also have something else in common. They don't have any problem interrupting you in the middle of you speaking, right?
Right, absolutely.
Like, have you seen that one? Like, they don't have any issue whatsoever to interrupt you and say, yeah, okay, that's great, Boris, but can you tell us about X? Can you tell us about Y? Can you tell us about Z? So they don't have any problem. So because of that, we want to approach them in a different way. We want to give them, first of all, we want to give them a presentation where they choose what we as speakers cover. What are you doing by allowing them this thing? 2 things, very important things though. The first one is that you give them control. When you give people control, they feel special. And we can be talking to each other the opposite, but you internally know, deep in your heart, you know that when you are in control, you feel a bit more special. So that's great. The second thing that you are actually allowing them to do is you are saving them time. And if you've seen executives, and by the way, for you, if you are an executive or if you're not, nowadays you appreciate your time. Like, you just appreciate your time. like you save every single second if you can, right? So we are giving them control, making them feel special. We are saving them time because now they can say, hey, can you just cover who are Novotel and your services? Or in another case, they may say, wait a minute, we know who you are. Can you immediately jump into our services and let's see whether or not we can do something about it and whether or not we can buy something from you, right? In your case, the 5 buttons here could be something else. You'll see another example later on, right? But you are saving them time. This is big deal. Saving them time is big deal. Now, are you as the speaker gaining something from all of that? Giving them the control, saving them time. What do you get from all of this? What you get is the most important thing that presenters need to understand. When you get into a room of people, in front of a room of people, many presenters believe that they automatically have the attention of the room. That means that just because they're in the room, you know, people will listen to me, right? You here all in the chat know that that's, however, not the case. You enter in a room and you open up your phone. Like you just immediately take your phone, and if the presentation is boring, then that's it, right? However, with this approach, you give them the control, they choose, you are saving them time, but because they just selected, they just said, hey, get into our services now. The question now is, what is their motivation and what is the reason for them to not listen? And that is very, very important. So this is in our, let's say, continent, in Europe, or at least in Bulgaria, we say this is a conversational approach. In your case, it may be interactive presentation. It really doesn't matter, at least for me, how do you call it. However, the approach works. And since we created this presentation for Deutsche Telekom, if you ask the sales director, his name is Kamen, typical Bulgarian name, by the way, if you ask him how is it going, it is just way different. Like his words are, people do not expect, our clients do not expect that we are actually asking them what they want to cover. And when they see those zooming effects, they're completely blown away. So the question now is, how do you build that? Right? How do you build a presentation like that? And as you will see, that presentation is built on top of PowerPoint, which is licensed through Office 365. And if you go to the Insert tab, you'll see a button that's called Zoom. This is a new feature in PowerPoint 2016 when you license it through Office 365. However, before I show you how it was built in this case, in Office 365, I know that there are people in the room and people in the chat that do not have Office 365. And because I don't want you to find excuses for you not having this approach, I will first show you how you can build something very similar with PowerPoint before this feature actually was presented. So let's get back to work. So let me show you another version of this deck. Here it is. So this is the same presentation, right? This is the same presentation. However, the presentation itself is still not, this is still not a dashboard. It looks like a dashboard. Some of the images are buttons, but this one, the first one, is still not ready. The reason why it's not ready is because I want to show you how you can do that before 2016. So let me show you how you need to do that. So the first thing I need to create is I need to understand, once I click on this button, because now we consider this image as a button, which slides should this button open? And the slides are from number 2 to up until number 10, including number 10. Okay, so that's great. Now, what is the next step? Before you have Office 365 and PowerPoint that's coming with it, what you need to actually do is go to the Slideshow tab. Then you need to use a feature that's kind of an old feature, and not that many people have seen up until now probably, but it's called Custom Slideshow. It's here on the left-hand side. See it? So if I go and click on this one, I have four custom shows already built in, but let's create a new one in order for you to see the user experience. So I'll click on custom shows, and then I'll click on the new one, right? So what is a custom show? Custom show by its nature is a way to logically group portion of your presentation, right? So let's make a group of slides into one single object, a custom show. So I will name this custom show Who Are Novatel, which is Who Are Deutsche Telekom, and I will include in that custom show slide number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I will add them on the left-hand side. These are going to be the slides that are going to be part of the custom show Who Are Novatel. Okay? So let's click OK. And then I'll say close. Now I have the logical grouping. The question now is, can I somehow activate, and if I click on this image, somehow open that custom show? Because if I'm able to do that, then more or less I have this approach, right?
Yeah.
So let's click on, question?
No, I think it's good. Oh, someone wants to know, do you tell them up front that those sections are clickable links?
No. It depends on the speaker. It depends on, of course, like your feeling about the group in front of you. But once you ask them, hey, what do you need to cover? For them, it's more or less clear that something is going on and they have to select one of those 5 in this example. So you don't have to tell them, but if you want, and if you think it will be better for your audience, because it's a different audience than obviously ours, please do so, no worries.
Okay.
So going back, I will click on the image. This is a simple image, okay? So this is something that our designers did. It's an image. And then I'll go to the Insert tab. And while on the Insert tab, I'll click on the Action button, right? Here in the middle of the presentation, in the middle of the ribbon and the menu. By the way, no matter which version of PowerPoint you're using, you will have this button. Okay, I'm using 2016, obviously, but you have this button and you can check it for yourself right now. If you're using 2013, 10, 7, whatever. Hopefully you're not using PowerPoint 2003, but that's another question. So now I'm clicking on Action. My photo is selected, and take a look at what's asking me. So on mouse click. So when I click with my mouse or with a touch, if my device is touch enabled, meaning that thing actually also works on tablets or on big screens that are also touch enabled, that may give you some ideas. I will go and say, hey, when I click with my mouse, I want to go and activate a hyperlink. I want to link to, and take a look, what do we have in the menu here? Take a look at this button right here. So once I click on the image, I can then go to a custom show. We just created the custom show, so let's use that one. So here I have to select which one is the show. So I'll select Who Are Novatel, and take a look at this button here, this checkbox here. What is this one, and why is it important? Show and return. Show and return is something that you may want to include and enable and check, because what show and return actually is the ability for PowerPoint, once you go to the whole section, so through the whole Who Are Novatel section, and you go to the last slide number 10 in there, and you click next with your clicker or with mouse or with touch, what this stick here will do is it will actually bring us back on the dashboard,
right?
Which is extremely cool. Extremely cool. And then you as the speaker say, hey, do we need to cover something else? Is it something else interesting? What are we doing? What are the next steps, right? So you bring the conversation back again. So I'll mark this and I'll say okay, and then okay. So let's test this. Let's see how it works and whether or not it works. So I'll go to full screen mode, and then with my mouse I'll just click and see whether or not this works, right? It works. It enables the first slide, the slide from this deck. So let's quickly go through them and let's see what's going to happen afterwards. This is all about morph here. mission. Of course, every big corporation nowadays has mission, customer experience, then customer experience is something completely different than customer service. And then boom, look what happens, right? We're back on the dashboard. So the custom show works. And this is not 2016. These are not features of 2016.
Right,
now,
anyone can do this. I do have a question, Boris.
Absolutely, go for it.
Could I have chosen insert hyperlink, insert link it's called, instead, and done the same thing?
My view, so you should be able to. Let me tell you why I'm not doing it. Because when I was doing this, so I say, hey, go to right click and say insert link. Right? And I go to, oh, actually I cannot do it even here. Edit the link because there is a link right now. So let's break the link quickly. Let me show you something. So I remove the link. So let's say, I'll say, hey, link. Oh, they changed this completely now here, I think. So the reason why I was not using link, but I was using action is because, Ellen, correct me if I'm wrong here, but when you were using link, you were not able back then when last I tried this, you were not able to use you were not able to check this checkbox for show and return. And that check was only available through the action menu. That's why I always go through the action.
Okay, I don't remember the history of it, but I think you can use it now. But let's stick with action because it's simple and it works. Absolutely.
Works, proven. So go for it. It's next to the link button, so go for it. So let's bring it back. So from now the question is, hey, that's great. That's a good first step. However, Boris, I really like the way all of those slides were zooming in and zooming out, right? This is very fancy, very smooth. I really like it. Can I make that in PowerPoint 2013 or 16 before, and if I'm not licensing it through Office 365? Well, it turns out that you can come very close to it, right? Let me show you what I mean. So quick question to you guys. What dictates how a slide will open once I click, and what the effect of the opening of the slide will be once I click on any of those pictures?
So let's see if anybody knows that. He's asking a question, what effects, yes, so somebody says transitional animation.
Right, on spot, transitions. So if I go to the first slide, which opens, and I go to the transitions, and I take a look, just a careful look of what type of transitions do I have. Take a look at what do we have in here. We have a zoom transition. So let's use this one and look at the effect. Did you see the effect?
Yep.
When you're in a webinar, it's kind of a bit slower. So again, just for a quick reference, take a look. Whoop.
No, it's very nice.
So now if I go and say, hey, let's try this, and I click on Who or Nova, they'll take a look at what happens. You see? So that's kind of nice. So what I can do afterwards is I can simply go through all of the opening slides, correct? And I can just use the same transition. And that's it. That's everything that I can do. Now, when I am going back to this slide, to the dashboard, let's call it, I'm going with another effect. If you carefully looked at it in the previous example, I still use zoom. However, I'm using the opposite direction, let's go this way. So I use, from effect options, I can use actually not zoom in, but zoom out.
Right.
So I can use zoom out for this feature, for this moment. So if I now go from here, and I go to the, not like going back, but let me show you something else. I'll show you something hidden after a second. So if I go here, I say go to Who or Novotel, go to our first slide, and then go to the second slide. You will see that, can you see right at the bottom corner? You see something changes here?
You have an invisible button.
I have an invisible button. So let me click on this one. Take a look at what happens.
Nice.
Now, the business reason the business reasons to all of the listeners and to all of you that are spending time with us today. Why do I need this, and how is this created? How is this button here created? This is a simple shape, right? This is nothing else but a shape, like this one, right? However, then I changed it to no fill, and then I removed the outline also, correct? And that shape by itself, that shape, by the way, when you do it like this and then it disappears, which, oh, it's still here, okay. So once you do it like this, the reason why we have it, and it's very important for you to understand why we did it here for our client. During the brainstorming process, we were working with them, and I asked Carmen, hey, is it possible for someone to ask you to go to the Who Are Novotel Park, and then on the third slide, let's say here, say, okay, Carmen, okay, Boris, that's enough. Can you now go back to the services?
Yep.
And Carmen says, yeah, completely possible, like completely. So if we don't have the button itself, what are you going to be doing? Like, are you going to hit escape and then scrolling through your slides again? Like it's very annoying when someone scrolls through their slides this way. That's why we are implementing a button like this. And once you create this button, the only thing that you do is just copy paste it, right? By the way, take a look. It's here. It's here. On and on and on. You just copy paste it because you want to enable the speaker, if that's you or someone else, to be able to go back smoothly to the dashboard and allow this very smooth conversation. So that is something very, very important that you can do, and that is something that you can do even with PowerPoint 2013, PowerPoint 2010, or even an older version. And it's very easy. As you can see, you just have to know custom slideshow, custom shows, and from there just create the links to the custom shows. So
the idea is that you make that invisible button and you hyperlink it back to the dashboard, and then you copy and paste it.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So Wilma has a question if you could put it on the master.
You actually, I think you can put it on the master. I haven't tried it. I think you can.
I think you can too.
My only concern is, and you have to test this, or I can test it and follow up afterwards, is whether or not, Ellen, I believe if we put it on the master, I believe it will go on the back of the slide. So if I put images, you know, so right, if I put image, it will be behind the image, and then you won't be able to click it, and that will be a problem. So this is, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. I'm not sure. Completely honest with you, I'm not sure, but I believe that's what's going to happen. The button will be the button will be at the back of the slide, and so if you put an image like this, for example, like here, it will go on top of the button, and if you need to click it, you won't be able to, and that's a problem. So it becomes
that makes a certain amount of sense. Yep.
Yeah. So that is how you do it. That is how you do it before 2016. Now, because we are very kind of modern here in this webinar, let's see how we can do it in 2016 and when we have Office 365. Now, by the way, just to give you context of why this makes so much sense, I'm just coming because, again, it's 9:30 p.m. here in Bulgaria, Sofia, and today I spent 2 hours with a startup they are doing, I don't know the English word for that one, but it's an extension to this will be hard. So they're doing, let's go this way. So they are doing a product that saves 90% of the water that you are using from your shower, okay? So they're doing this product, and they, for some reason, are now just won an opportunity to pitch that product to some of the Hilton owners, some of the Hilton directors in New York City, okay? So they're flying from Sofia to New York City to pitch that product. They are expecting, take a look at what happens here, they're expecting 3 or 4 people to join the room, all of them decision makers. So we know that those people don't have time. we know that they are going to be interrupting them if they're not hearing what they want to hear. We know that if we put them in control and if we save them time, that will be a good idea. And we know that if we are able to somehow impress them, that's also not a bad idea, right? So
right.
These guys are startups, are a startup. And I just told them, for us, I don't know for the States, but here in Bulgaria, to buy that product, to buy Office 365 business subscription, it costs 12 euros. That's more or less like 15 bucks. And I was like,
right.
Yeah, per month, absolutely. And I'm like, guys, you are spending almost 2,000 euros to get to New York City. Like, what is your excuse to not buy that? Like, seriously. So they bought it, and today I looked at their presentation, and it looks fantastic. Like, it is something that if they rehearse it well, if they're ready, and if they know how to present it well, it will put them in a very, very interesting position. So back on our friends from Deutsche Telekom. So how did I build all of that? Again, all of those here are images. Let me give you context. So these are images, right? Take a look. So let me see if I can put them here in X large icon. Okay, so take a look. I'll just zoom them out. You see? This is the first image for the dashboard. This is the second one. On and on and on. So how did I build this? I have my presentation, so it's here. And then I say, hey, wait a minute, let's build this dashboard. So I'll say insert, zoom, and I'll say summary zoom. After a minute or so, we'll use another version of the zoom.
I just want to confirm with everybody, in case it is clear, that now Boris is showing you another way to get the same result with Office 365 with the zoom feature.
Absolutely. The same thing, the same end result, more or less the same. Let's be honest here. The effect is the transitions are not exactly the same. They're very close. Right. However, in Office 365 is just so easy. Like it is so easy. It's just brutal. You probably have seen this feature in another product that's called Prezi. Oh, by the way, which is a very interesting thingy, as a friend of mine says. Like, it's a very interesting thingy. So, so we are going to be using the summary zoom. Summary zoom, more or less, take a look at how it works. So if I click summary zoom, it asks you which are the opening slides of each section of your presentation. This is what it asks you. And because I have done the sections already, even though you may not have them, you just need to mark the slides, okay? Nothing special. These are the opening slides. You may want to call them section slides or transition slides, up to you. And now just click insert and look what happens. So this is a dashboard. As you will see, take a look. This dashboard already works. Take a look. So it's already working. Take a look at what happens if I go back. So it already works. However, it's not like this one, right? It doesn't look the same. What PowerPoint is doing is they're giving you a preview of the slides that you selected. This is what they are giving you. So what you want to do, for example, at least in my opinion, is because I don't like that. I want to change it. I want it to look better. So let me show you how you need to change it. If I click on each one of those, you will see in PowerPoint 2016 that, let me just move this quickly, that you will see a new button that's called Zoom Tools. In the same way as you have drawing tools, in the same way that you have picture tools, same thing. It just understands that that's a different type of object and gives you specific options for it. So I'll go to Zoom Tools and I'll click Format. And there on the left-hand side, there's a very interesting button, I would say, and it's this one. Change image. So now I hope that you start to understand what's about to happen, because I'll click on this one, I'll go to change image here, and then I'll just select the image that I want. I'll select from a file, I'll copy paste the path, and I'll just say, hey, this is the first image, right? Obviously, the result is not the same. is the one that you're seeing here. So I'll give you an example with just this one, and then we'll move on because you'll get the idea. The problem with all of that is because it's not as flexible as you love it, as you expect it to be. So what you need to do is play with it, okay? We all love PowerPoint and Microsoft, so you have to first stretch it out a bit. So put it on the angles, put it right here, put it here, then move this one, let's say, on the angle, then stretch it up a bit. Take a look at how it stretches, by the way, very confusing.
Right.
Very confusing. And take a look at what's going to happen afterwards. So it moves it down. For me, it's very confusing. So a bit more, look what happens. A bit more, boom, and there you have it, right? Now, what you're going to see, by the way, Ellen, for me, that was like a complete shock when I saw it for the first time, was that Microsoft way of thinking where they just want to put a border on every single object. Like, why do you want to put a border on every single object?
Smart art works that way. When you try to resize the objects in smart art, it does the same type of thing.
Yeah. So what you need to do here, by the way, and take a look at another funny thing, but don't tell Microsoft or tell them. So if I go to, because take a look at the white border here. I don't like that. I don't like borders. Take a look at how it looks here. I don't like white borders. So I'll click on the zoom tools. And you may want to say, hey, wait a minute, let me go and just say shape outline, and also they now fixed it. So you can go from shape outline. Take a look at what I was about to say. So if that was a shape, the naming of the border is called shape outline. However, if you go to format of the zoom tools, the feature that removes the border is not called zoom outline, it's called zoom border.
Right, just to confuse you.
even though they're doing the same thing, they're using different words.
And then when you go down, you have to choose no outline. Yeah, it's complicated.
Exactly.
Confusing.
That's it. And from here, you just repeat. Right. So I don't wanna spend time on this. You get the idea. Now, and that's how I built this dashboard. Now, as you'll see here, the secret button is still here, right? However, I want to show you something else that's interesting, I believe. So let me remove this dummy section here. If we go down here, you will see that we have another dashboard. So if I click on our services, let me give you the first example. Take a look. So the original presentation works like this. I go and you say, hey, let's talk about what you can offer to us. I go to our services, it zooms in. I go then next, this is some icons. Morph here. Then I go again and look what happens. So this is dashboard in the dashboard now.
Yeah, right? That's cool.
So now the reason why we have this from business perspective, and by the way, if you look at carefully on the left-hand side, it breaks. When you're in slideshow mode and you have external screen, it breaks, at least the current build breaks. This is not the way it's designed, as you'll see in the edit view, but it shows up here, which is kind of annoying, but we all love Microsoft for that. And here, the reason why we did this is because they told us that they can offer you all of the 5 services as a package, right? They can sell you everything together. However, most of the times, the companies that they work with are looking for a specific service. And common words are, hey, when they are looking for the flexible business server, before we did that, and when we were going through the managed office communication and the telco service, they were not listening. And it makes sense because they don't care about telco and managed office communication, right? So here we are again asking them, hey, is there a specific service that you're looking for, and which one is it, if so? Or you are looking to explore, or you're searching to explore everything that we can offer, right? And we give them this option to select again. Take a look at the effect. So if I click here, it's the same, going back. I can go and say, hey, show me this one. And then I can go to the next one, take a look at what happens. I go to the next one, see the effect is it's like a page or something. I go back on the previous one, and then I go back again. So how was this thing created? take a look, because it's using another feature of the product. So all of those services are one slide each, right? Take a look. In our case, they're one slide each. That's it. Now, because they're one slide each, what I can do, I'll close this version, is I can say, wait a minute, I kind of noticed that here on the zoom feature, there was something that was called slide zoom. Huh, that's kind of interesting. Let's work with that. So all of those four are already built. So let me give you an example of how you build zoom, slide zoom to the first slide, right? So I go to the dashboard, to the internal dashboard, and I go to zoom, and I just say, hey, I want to zoom in a specific slide. So I'll use just the slide zoom feature. So I'll go here, and I will just select the slide. This is the slide, number 19, I believe. Managed office, yeah. So number 19, I'll insert, and you'll see something quite familiar. That ugly preview. So because I don't like that, you now know what I'm about to do, right? So I'll go to the format. I'll say, wait a minute, change the image. I don't like the image. I'll go click from a file. I'll go to the source files. I'll select the image. Here is the image. And again, I'll do the same thing. I'll remove the border because there is a border. And I'll expand. Take a look. See? And that's that. And from here, I go and immediately test it because I want to be sure that it works. Every single time, my suggestion to you is always use and always work with all of those services on a small steps. Like do one, test it out. Do the second, test it out. Don't go crazy. Like don't go 10 buttons and then let's test them out.
Right.
One by one. Don't forget, this is PowerPoint. At the end of the day, this is software. Something will break, and afterwards, if you are trying to troubleshoot it, it's way more complicated. So I'll go here and take a look. So
right. So Nancy says, is this still just for 365?
Yes, this is 365 only, but was her name Nancy?
Yes.
But Nancy, if you really look at it, if I'm on the old version, because I don't want you to have excuses today. If I go on the old version, what can I do? I can have the image, right? I can go to insert, I can go to action, and I can just say hyperlink to not a custom show, right? But I can just say a specific slide. I can say slide, and I can say, wait a minute, go to number 19, right? And I can say, okay, I will make slide number 19 use the zoom transition again, right? And here you go, right? So you don't have excuses anymore. Please don't go there. So you can do that in 2013, 10 or 7 also.
So
it's
no excuses, right?
No excuses. So I agree that it's not exactly the same. The transition is not exactly the same. But guys, trust me when I say this. We build presentations for the companies that you heard, and we're already 3 years on the market. The number of companies and the number of people that are on the market, by the way, Evan, again, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not that data, and I don't remember dates, streets, and names that much, but correct me if I'm wrong, but this feature was announced at the end of 2016, right? In Office 365.
Oh, I don't remember exactly, but yeah.
So I believe this was released at the end of 2016. Now we are at the end of 2018, right? And if you ask yourself how many presentations like this you have seen, well, there are not that many. Yeah. I would even say, well, there are not such at all. And so this is a huge opportunity for each one of us here, because it is so, as you can see, that thingy, as my colleague says, will so quickly differentiate you from everyone else. Like so quickly, because it's a completely different approach. Again, it works for specific cases only. Don't go at a huge event like Microsoft Ignite saying to the crowd, hey, lovely audience, which part do you want me to go in first? and you see 200 hands going for the first part, 200 hands. That doesn't work there.
I'll tell you, I actually did something similar to this once on a webinar, which is very unusual. And I asked people in the chat, and I just sort of saw what people said, and I just picked one. You know, I said, most people said this, so that's what I'm doing. And of course, I was showing the feature, so I wanted them to see it. So it can work with a larger audience, but you're right, it can get very unruly, especially in a crowd of people like the people who go to Ignite. Yeah.
By the way, or similar. I'm saying Ignite because we're in the Microsoft zone right now. And being in the Microsoft zone, by the way, quick check for you, all of you, because you are obviously presenters and people who care about presentations. Take a look, because it's public now and it's online, I believe. Take a look at the recent keynote that Satya Nadella did for the opening of Ignite this year, because the opening was yesterday or Monday, I don't remember. But take a look at the keynote and take a look at what happens and what type of slide is he using when he goes and comes to the part where he presents case studies with their clients. You are going to be kind of surprised what he is using there, you know, because
see it.
Have you seen that one or not?
No, I didn't.
So take a look what he is using, and I believe you quickly guess what sits behind that. Because I promise you that you now have seen how this thing can be built.
Okay, cool.
So take a look at it. It's another interesting example by how you can use Zoom and utilize it. Now I want to show you another example. So this is how you build it in 2016. You saw how you build it pre-2000 and pre-Office 365. Now I want to show you another example, and then open up for even more questions, because when people see this, they just say, hey, wait a minute, that's wonderful. That's Deutsche Telekom, that's nice, but that's just one example, right? There should be a reason why people are not using it, right? But it's not the case. So in our case, and in our experience, I don't know if in the US, but I believe it is, the company Adecco. Have you heard about Adecco Group? Adecco are one of the biggest recruiting companies on the planet.
Okay.
Has anyone in the comments, has anyone heard about Adecco? Yes or no? Quickly, let's go.
I don't think so.
Really? No one?
Nick says yes. Yes. Sorry,
okay.
No. We have two yeses and a no.
So Adecco are very large organization. They're a really huge organization, and because they became a really big organization nowadays, they decided to split. They decided to split the company on smaller pieces, and so one of the biggest pieces in Adecco is called Modis. It's named like this, Modis. Modis is the company which is part of Adecco, which only deals with finding IT people. So the only thing that they are doing is recruiting IT people. And this is more or less the biggest part of Adecco Group. Now, Modis are our client also. And let me show you what I mean and what we did for them. Because their case and their sales presentations, in this case, it is again a sales presentation, but it doesn't have to be. I'm showing you sales use cases because these are what I have. You may want to see this and say, wait a minute, I can use this for X, Y, and Z, and please go ahead and do that. In our case, with our clients, I don't want to show you how this technology is just working with some simple icons or stupid pictures. I just want to show you real world use cases, and this is what I have. And hopefully you appreciate seeing real world use cases and not some dummy images. Now, what we did for Modis is something that I believe you will guess. Take a look. So that presentation is something very interesting. By the way, have you heard about a company that's called Nestle? They're doing...
Say it again?
Nestle. So let me type it in the chat. Or it's not that popular in...
Somebody says Modis is big in Canada.
Big in Canada?
That's what somebody said. That's what someone said.
Nestle. So I will talk about Nestle after a second.
Oh, Nestle. Oh, Nestle. Oh,
Nestle?
Yeah. Yes,
that's how you... Okay. Anyway, sorry for that one. So take a look at this one. Again, you probably see something familiar, right? Can you spot the kind of a what's going on in here, right? So let me show you how this works. By the way, this is a month and a half project, very big project, as you'll see. And here we again have the same thing. Take a look, right? And I go, and here we go again, right? So it is the same thing. It works the same way. Even works so close to the previous example that if I go to the case studies, because they're such a big client, take a look at what happens. There, once you get to the case studies, they're actually going to ask you, hey, which industry do you want us to show you a case study from? So we have so many. Just choose, right? And you can go everywhere, right? So this is, again and again, this was built based on Zoom, the way that you just saw, like in the same way, nothing different, obviously different look, different brand, different colors, but overall approach. And the reason why we went for this approach was absolutely the same as with Deutsche Telekom. They present in front of not more than 7 or 8 people in a room. All of them are decision makers, all of them. And they don't have time, and also they don't have the problem, and they don't have any issues interrupting you. And that's why, once we heard that, we were like, clear, Zoom. Right? From a business perspective, that just makes sense. And it makes so much sense. So this is how it was built for Modis, which is, again, a very big corporation, operates obviously in Bulgaria. But if you look at the Adecco group in terms of the company itself, it operates all across the world. So it is a very interesting example again. And I wanted to show it to you just to prove you guys that this is not an exception to the rule. I believe that together and with PowerPoint and with Office 365 becoming more and more popular across organizations and across individuals, we are probably going to be seeing more and more of those type of presentations. And what's more interesting to me is that the people who do presentation like this first are the companies and the individuals that are going to win most, because it's so new, it's so unusual, at the same time it's so effective, it's just brutal. And I would definitely encourage you guys to check it out. So if you let me know if you have any questions that we still haven't replied before we actually wrap this up. Ewan, do you have any questions?
So I actually wanted to say something, but everybody, if you have any questions for Boris, put them in the chat. So one of the things that I think is clear, you're doing presentations for other people to present, but you need to sell them on the fact that they need to practice using the presentation. They need to understand the structure of it, and they need to know, if there's an invisible button at the bottom right corner, they need to know it's there. And so there's a certain amount of practice. Now, of course, everybody should practice their presentations, but it does bring on a slightly different level of practice. Now, if you're creating it yourself, you're going to know it like the back of your hand. So it'll be, but even then, you should practice having, with a friend saying, choose this, so I know I can go back and forth. And as you said, Boris, you have to test all of these links as you do them to make sure that they work too. So I wanted to make that clear.
Sorry for interrupting. And bringing that point, it's very important to mention something here. Having a presentation like this will never be enough, right? What Ellen is saying is practice is just crucial. And the problem with practice, if I can call it a problem, is that when you have a linear presentation or a presentation going from slide 1 to slide 40, you practice the flow as it goes. Here, you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like you just don't know. People can say, hey, go to part number 2 and then go to number 1 and then go to number 4, or someone will say, hey, go to number 3 and then go to number 4 and then go to number 1. And so you as the speaker have to be ready to go and figure out a smooth flow between all of those sections as it was intended, as like this flow was actually the intended one. And that brings the stakes higher, because you as the presenter or the presenter himself or herself has to prepare even better. Now, I believe my opinion, is that if you are spending so much time and resource and effort and thinking and all of that, creating a slide, creating a presentation like this, you're just obliged to spend time rehearsing and preparing even better. Because at the end of the day, spending so much time preparing and building something like this, or paying someone to build something like this for you, and then having the how can I say it, like going in front of a client and being not prepared, that's just not serious. Like,
right, yeah, especially some of these, these are high stakes presentations, and it's absolutely, if you didn't
crucial. Guys,
crazy.
There is just presentation skills tip. Probably you have said it in the previous years for sure, but I just want to again just mention it here, because, and obviously if so many people that are doing just presentations are mentioning this, it's important and it has to be true. Every single presentation that you have seen, and every single presentation that you admire for some reason, has been rehearsed. There is no question about it. There are no born speakers. The amount of work that goes behind the scenes of delivering a presentation of any kind, but delivering it in a proper way, is just enormous. And the higher the stakes, the more work you put. For example, the amount of work we put as a company and our clients when we were preparing for an IPO is just immense.
Absolutely.
We spent 4 months doing that.
Wow.
But we have just one shot. Like, we have at one moment in one single room, we have 120 people in the room. 80% of them are the investors in the country and investors from around the region, and 20% of the room is actually the media. And you don't have any other shot, right? And if you screw that up, you have a problem.
Why don't you stop sharing so we can see you bigger? I just wanted to give you a last couple of comments and introduce the next one, which is me. Hi. So Katie says, great information. I will be transitioning my organization's internal dashboard from Excel to Zoom. And Donna says, well done. This gives me some ideas. Thank you. Louise says, can we use this kind of presentation for promotion of a product, for example, that we send to a person without being there?
You cannot do that easily, because if you export this, first of all, I highly recommend you send presentations to your clients in a PDF format for so many reasons. And when you export this into a PDF, what you're going to see are small X's.
Yeah, it
doesn't work. It doesn't work. Now,
the other reason is that they don't know where the invisible buttons are, and they don't know what are links, and so if they don't know the structure, it'll be confusing.
What I want to share with you are 2 other scenarios where we work with clients, because maybe some ideas will come to you when you hear them. First scenario: if you guys have a meeting that is a monthly, quarterly, weekly meeting with another party, and every single time you present the same type of information, like in different categories, but the same information, you go through the same categories of things. What we have seen an IT company here in Bulgaria do once they saw Zoom was, wait a minute, we always present 3 or 4 types of information, and we just say, this one is green, so they're measuring KPIs, right? This month is yellow, this one is red, and this one is green. Even though they are measuring KPIs, they were always going from the first category to the last one. And when they saw Zoom, they were like, wait a minute, why don't we just go to the ones that require our attention and not spend time talking about things that doesn't make sense right now? They optimized the minutes they have to talk about important things. And now they're using their meetings way more effectively. Plus, some of them, sometimes on a monthly basis, are shorter, right? Because sometimes they just cover the areas that require attention, and they say everything else is green, so let's go.
So right, now that makes a lot of sense.
This is the first case.
Katie says, yes, you read my mind.
Katie, wait for another one. Another use case with a client. we are doing something for Berlin, for Germany, and we have an expo. So imagine an expo. If for some of you, you are the PR or the marketing person, or you communicate with those guys. So imagine this. You go on an expo, you pay with our client, they are paying 15,000 euros for a very small booth. It's not like a very large booth, but a small booth. 15,000 euros, that's a lot of money. These are $20,000, more or less.
Uh-huh.
So why don't we do the following? Why don't we, instead of putting a small screen, you probably have seen them, a small screen with a PowerPoint presentation that was set up to transition from slide to slide on every 5th second. And I go to the screen and I saw a really interesting slide, but I now have to wait until it gets back to that slide, because they just go slide by slide, and I'm like sitting in front of the screen, waiting for my slide to come up. Why don't we spend a few $100, rent, take a look, that's what our idea, rent 80, 70 or 80-inch, like very large screen that's touch enabled, connect it with an HDMI connector to a PC somewhere behind the scenes, and put PowerPoint presentation with Zoom feature enabled there. And just leave it to the people who are coming to our booth. Once we see that someone interacts with a click, with touch, with our presentation, because that's now a presentation, even though it looks strange, like PowerPoint, really? They interact with it, then the salespeople come and attack you, right?
Right.
So this is something.
I wanted to stop you, Boris, because we're at the top of the hour, and I wanted to say that next week I'm going to be, and then I want to give another way of doing this, which I think everybody would be interested in. So next week I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be doing 10 slide hacks that for better slides in under 5 minutes. So I'm going to go through 10 just little techniques that I think you'll love, that will give you better slides in under 10 minutes. So I just wanted to tell you that. But the other thing I wanted to tell you about what Boris was talking about was that you can create a slide like this that has visual instructions on it.
Yeah.
So this is sometimes used for children, actually, but it doesn't have to be for children. So you could, at the top of that slide, you could say, click the picture that you want to go to, and it says it there. And then you could, and that button doesn't have to be invisible. It could be visible, and it could have text on it that says, click here to go back to the menu slide. So you can create a presentation like this that gives enough instruction so people know how to navigate it on their own.
Yeah. So so now that you know Zoom, I highly advise you, just to wrap it up with what I said, now you know Zoom, and now you know how it works before PowerPoint 2016 and after. So now that you know it, the next time when you have to prepare a presentation, just think about it. Think about whether or not you can use it. Because if so, go ahead and do it. Because if you do that, that will just truly differentiate you from the competition. And I believe everyone here is looking for that one.
No, and I love the word conversational presentation, because somebody talked about like a customized presentations. Another word you could use are interactive. But this idea that rather than you're speaking to them, you're speaking with them, you're creating a conversation, you're giving them what people need, letting them make the choice. I think that's
it's a big deal.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We have to go. This was wonderful,
guys.
Boris. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Okay, so somebody says, wonderful, thank you, really appreciate you going over the pre-65 version, a fantastic idea, the only limit we have is us, great. Okay, thank you, this was great. Okay, bye-bye, everybody, see you next week.
Bye.